by depression for 30 years, and with his wife about to leave him, Pastor William Cuccia was at the end of his rope and struggling with fear, anxiety, and rage. Then one day, an unexpected injured visitor came into their lives, a little broken hummingbird, who became an agent of change and transformation for Will. And so Will, really, I saw this, I said, lessons from a hummingbird. Okay, what could this possibly be about? You know, your subtitle is a regular guy's adventure and how he got free from depression and rage. But tell us a little about your story. You were in pastoral ministry, you know, living life for God and all that, but yet there was some things that needed some fixing.
Yeah, for years, it's almost like I characterize it as living a double life, feeling like, everything I said, I truly believed in my head. And at times it went deep into my soul. But there was always the struggle with, what is this dark cloud that gets me so easily discouraged? And why do I react the way I react? And so the battle is so debilitating. But it's hard to explain. But people that go through it, they always go, oh, I understand. And the people that have been met by the book the most are the ones that struggle the most with depression. Mm-hmm. And they can relate to, the struggles and the discouragement that comes by fighting this double life of depression.
What actually, how did it manifest in your life? What was it bringing into your life that, became such a debilitating factor?
The easiest way to answer that question, it's a great question, it's a cycle. And it started early on when I was really young. It started with just isolation and feelings of abandonment. When I was 4, I was left at my grandparents' house, and they only spoke Italian. And so I thought I was only going to be there a week, and I ended up being there 6 weeks as my mother was ill. And I would just hide under this bed with this little Raggedy Andy doll. And that started the cycle of when things got tough, when I became fearful or anxiety presented itself, I would run and hide. And that took on a pattern in adulthood. And when somebody who tried to break into that isolation or place of being alone, I would react with anger. And most of the time it was the people that loved me the most that would reach out to me.
Yeah.
And so it destroys relationships. And then the anger later on would become rage, and that would cause you to feel really guilty and shameful. And so it became a vicious downward cycle that once I became, depressed and feeling really ashamed of my behavior, then I would isolate again.
And you believe that possibly some of it could have been hereditary?
Oh, absolutely. I had a grandfather who was actually a church planter who came over from Italy, left Catholicism and planted a Pentecostal church in the Chicago area, and then moved it out to Los Angeles. He died in a mental institution at around the age I am today, and he was always battling depression. So I firmly believe that.
Now, the story of the hummingbird, you and your wife were kind of at wit's end, at rope's end, in this little unexpected intervention took place. So,
yeah, I actually had come to the end. I cried out to God for years, but one morning I just woke up. It was actually a Friday the 13th, and I told my wife, who had, unbeknownst to me, had already been planning on leaving me. I told her, I just can't do life. I can't get up. I can't go to work. And called a pastor friend who came over and prayed with me, and that started the process. And about a week later, we ran into this little hummingbird in the backyard of a house. We were coming home from church and stopped at this house that we had thought about purchasing. It was an empty house, and it was already sold. We knew it was sold, but we said, let's go anyway. And in the backyard of this house was this little nestling about an inch big in the grass. And in the book I share, I don't know how I didn't step on it, but we sat down on this planter, and my wife looked down and said, "What is that?" And there were these two little dark eyes peering up at me. I'll never forget it the rest of my life. And we took it home, and for the next 8 days nursed it and took care of it. And it became a clear image of how much God cared for me and how much He wanted to heal me more than I even understood.
What kind of drew you to the hummingbird? Because I look at you like a big burly guy, little tiny hummingbird. What really kind of touched your heart about this bird?
Well, my wife has a real bent towards animals. She's the one that wanted to take it home. I wanted to just leave it there, but I figured out a way to take it home. I put it in this plastic water bottle, and we took it home. And really, I believe it was the Spirit of God that began doing a work in my heart and softened my heart and taught me compassion during that. It was 8 days, but it was like that 8 days was almost like 8 months in terms of what I learned. And there's a whole book of lessons that came out of it. But it was really the compassion of the Holy Spirit that drew me to the. I would even go to work, and I couldn't wait to get home to see how this little bird was doing. It's crazy. And there's just so many stories that happened during that 8-day process. And there's a lot in the book that I talk about the tendencies and the things about hummingbirds that make them unique that really apply in a biblical and practical way.
Such as what?
Well, hummingbirds go into what's called a state of torpor.